So JBI-5 is deriving 66% of the revenue from consumer electronics stores, 29% from general electronics retail, and 5% from internet electronics retail. Now, I've received already 2 emails from students that don't know. They said, we got our peer firms, and in Australia. It's impossible that you got peer firms in Australia because there are not many competitors that have exactly the same, divisions like JBI-5. You need to go global. How do you do that? You identify all companies in consumer electronics. So if you click on consumer electronics, you are identifying that channel. Okay? So just scroll down and you get the top 5 by revenues. Now, this should be you, right? So if you open there, now this is giving you the list of all companies that are in consumer electronics stores. Just showing a few things, right? I know that some of you want to use Yahoo Finance, but this is not a subject for Yahoo Finance because Yahoo Finance doesn't give you this. So we pay tens of thousands of dollars for this data and nobody's using it. It's so amazing. You guys want to go the halfway. So it's calculating. You see, it's 9 out of 28 parameters completed. So what he's doing is, from all the global set of companies in consumer electronics stores, he's downloading all the peer firms for that division. Okay? And so if I scroll down here, so if you do this and you sort it descendingly, you will find all companies that derive 100% of the revenues from consumer electronics stores. So you will see JBI-5 will be around 66% from that picture, right? So there you go, that's JBI-5. Now look at the market capitalization of JBI-5. It's about $2.7 billion US dollars. You don't want to get a company that derives 100% of revenues from consumer electronic stores like the Cellnet in Australia, but has an $8.08 billion capitalization, because you cannot compare a company that has $2 billion with JBI-5 with a company that has $8 million. The two are not the same. So identify all companies with at least 50 or 60% of revenues from that division, and then find companies that have 500, 600, 700, $1 billion, $2 billion of capitalization in total market cap. Because you can't compare an ant to an elephant. They are completely different. Okay? They behave differently. So you identify that. Now imagine that you found your set of 20. So what can you see here? There is one company, Mobile World Investment Corp, which derives 95% from consumer electronics and has a 2.354 capitalization, so $2.3 billion capitalization, very similar to JBI-5. Is that exactly the same as JBI-5? No, because it's 95% of revenue. But that doesn't matter. You are trying to identify the systematic risk derived from consumer electronics store. So the higher the percentage of revenue, the more representative that company is of the systematic risk of that division. Okay? For the purpose of, say, calculating the beta. Now, imagine that you have you have identified companies that derive, say, at least 50% of the revenues from their industry, and they have a big market capitalization. What do you need now? The beta, right? You need the debt to equity, you need the tax rate, because you need to deliver. So don't go about calculating this yourself, because you'll never finish. You know, if you have, say, 10 companies, you'll never finish. I mean, FactSet does it for you. Why do you want to do it, you know? So, beta. Because you have different companies in different market, the US market, the Chinese market, Vietnamese market, just look at the headquarters. Now, some of these companies are in Japan, Hong Kong, Indonesia, Australia, Singapore, Vietnam, Thailand, whatever. So, get a beta relative to the local index. Which means, if a company is a US company, the index will be a US local index. the S&P 500. So click on that, get a 5-year beta, and add that column. Can't be easier than that. You do exactly the same thing for the debt to equity. Right? So now you have the beta there. Some companies obviously won't have a beta because either because the company is very small or who knows what the heck happened with the time series of that company. Then what else do you need? You need the tax rate. A company in the US will probably be a different tax rate from a company in Singapore, right? Because tax treatment is very different. So if you do tax rate, you'll get the tax rate facts and fundamentals. So do that. You can get different sort of options there. It's up to you how you want to get it. You add that column and that will give you the tax rate. You do exactly the same thing for the debt to equity. So the debt to equity, obviously, debt to equity, you have several options, total debt to total equity. Now you need to be very careful about this to make sure that this is not an accounting value. This is most likely an accounting value, see that? Because it's a total debt and common equity for non-US firms, so that's actually a problem. So you need to find a debt to equity. What you want to do is the following. So that goes back to what I said before. When you don't have the market value of debt and the market value of equity, get the accounting value of debt and the market capitalization, you then do the ratio of the two. You get your total debt to equity. So your debt is obviously total debt. This is facts and fundamentals. It means it comes from the annual report. It is not a market value. Okay? So get that, add it, and then what you do is, in a separate column, you get the market value of equity or market capitalization. Market value of equity or market capitalization is the same thing. There you go. Once you've done all this, download the Excel file. I'm sure you already know how to do that. Okay? So that will give you an RJX market file. You can't open it, right?
I can open it, but it's not really some problems.
Okay. So whatever, it's fine. So you can open. You guys will be able to open. The way it will look like is the following. See that? So you have the debt and you have the equity. Okay. Total long-term and short-term. This is the market cap. It actually is in fiscal year terms. You see that sometimes there are some weird numbers, like this is greater than the equity portion, right? So 1 to 4, you do the ratio of these two, you get the debt to equity. Accounting value of debt divided by the market value of equity. Okay? So now you have the beta over 5 years, levered, if a company has that. You have the tax rate. You have the debt to equity in market value terms. That is accounting, equity is market value, doesn't matter. You can delever the beta of your comparable firms and then get the lever beta for your peer firms and re-lever it at the JBI5 debt to equity. Okay? Does it make sense? So you have all the parameters there, you can do all these calculations. By the way, once you've done it, because this is obviously one of the components of the assignment, right? So whoever is doing that part 3 of the assignment has to do it for consumer electronic stores, and is not finished because consumer electronic store is only one of the 3 divisions of JBI5. You need to do it also for the other 2 divisions. So not just consumer electronics, but also general electronic retail. So you click on that, you are now identifying the second line, the second division, and now you have a completely different set of comparable firms that are in general electronic retail. If you click on that, you will have the internet electronic retailers. So you have all these companies. For each of your selected companies in the 3 divisions, you have the 3 unlevered betas. You see what I'm saying? You calculate the unlevered betas for your peer firms in consumer electronic stores, what's the other name? General electronics retail and internet electronics retail, using the set of your peer firms in each of these three divisions, weight those unlevered betas by 66.15%, 28.81%, 5.04%, that is the total unlevered beta of JBI5. You relever it times 1 plus 1 minus TC times the debt to equity of JBI5. That's your fundamental beta. Does it make sense? So I just showed you how to calculate the fundamental beta bottom up, so division-based fundamental beta for JBI5. If you want to validate the historical beta from a simple one-time series regression of JBI5 using 5 years monthly data. So you can do one, you can do the other, or if that is not your part, demand that component to your team member. Okay? Because otherwise your team member is simply having a great life, he's just doing one OLS regression, he's done.